Ladies and gentlemen of alphas, this is for the ones who dared to dream when everyone else doubted, for the ones who spoke their truths in the silence of their own minds, for those who planted seeds in the dark and watched as the world slept. You said this months ago. You said it, not as a question, not as a hope, but as a statement, a prophecy carved into the depths of your will. And now it's happening exactly like you said? What the fuck? Yes, exactly like you said. The universe didn't just listen, it echoed your voice in all its raw, unapologetic defiance. You see, there's a power in speaking your reality before it exists, before the world is ready to acknowledge it. That power is the power to command your fate. And that power is terrifying to everyone who doubted you, even to the parts of you that once doubted. If you want to support this movement by clicking the super thank you button and donating $20 or more, your blessing will fuel a shift that cannot be stopped. Together, we rise. Now think back to the nights you stayed awake, restless and restless, wrestling with the impossible weight of your own vision. You saw it all before anyone else could see a hint of it. The breakthrough, the change, the shift. You heard the laughter of your own fear, the whispers of the world telling you to shut up, to stop dreaming, to lower your voice. But you didn't. You shouted louder in your mind. You kept walking when your legs wanted to give up. You kept speaking when your throat was raw from silence. And now, the world is gasping because what you predicted, what you declared, what you didn't just wish for, but believed with the fierce hunger of a lion, it's unfolding. Exactly as you said. No mistakes, no accidents, just brutal, relentless truth. It's a dark kind of victory, isn't it? Because the path you walked was littered with shadows, the darkness of uncertainty, the loneliness of disbelief, the cold sting of betrayal. All companions on this journey you dared to take alone. And yet, here you are, standing in the storm you called forth, watching the horizon bend to your will. The same people who mocked your visions, who scoffed at your persistence, are now forced to reckon with the reality you crafted in silence. You made a promise to yourself and kept it, even when you were broken, even when your reflection in the mirror was a stranger you didn't recognize. Because true strength is born in that abyss, not in the light of applause, but in the shadows where no one sees you bleed. The question isn't how this is happening, it's why it's happening now. Why did it take so long for your words to manifest? The answer is brutal honesty. It took this long because you had to become the person worthy of this truth. You had to endure the fire to be forged into something unbreakable. You had to lose pieces of yourself so you could rebuild stronger, sharper, and more ruthless. Every delay was a test, every setback a sharpening stone. Every no was a preparation for your eventual fuck yes. You weren't just predicting the future, you were constructing it, piece by painful piece. You built your empire on a foundation of scars and silent vows. And this moment, this exact moment, when your words ring true like a gunshot in the night, it's your war cry. It's tempting now, when the vision becomes reality, to soften, to relax, to breathe easier. Don't. This is only the beginning of the war. The world that once ignored you will now try to tame you, to harness your power for their own needs. They'll pretend to be allies, but every smile will hide a dagger, every handshake a trap. Because when you speak a truth so fierce that it reshapes the world, you become a threat to everyone clinging to the old ways. And threats are not tolerated, they are eliminated. You have to steel yourself, sharpen your instincts, and prepare to fight harder than ever. The victory you see now is a war won, but the battle is far from over. You've made them listen, but you haven't made them understand. And understanding is a beast you have to wrestle with every day. This is the dark motivation you need to carry in your veins like poison. The world doesn't owe you recognition. It owes you nothing but the same indifference it gave when you whispered your truth in the dark. You have to take what you deserve, claw it out of the bones of resistance, and wear it like armor. Let their doubt fuel your fire. Let their disbelief sharpen your resolve. Because the power of your words is not just in their manifestation, but in the relentless pursuit that brought them to life. It's easy to speak when you know you'll be heard. It's a different kind of courage to speak when the silence is deafening and the shadows are closing in. You did that. You spoke anyway. And now, that speech is a storm. Remember this feeling. Remember the taste of shock, the sting of disbelief. Not because you should be humbled, but because you should be hungry. Hungry for more, hungrier than anyone who ever told you no or impossible. Use this moment as a blade to cut through future doubts, to slice through every obstacle with the precision of a warrior who's seen the darkness and walked through it unbroken. Your prophecy came true, yes, but it's not magic. It's the result of every sleepless night, every second of pain, every ounce of grit you poured into making the impossible inevitable. This is the dark truth of success. It's born in suffering, fueled by fire and claimed by the relentless. So when you hear that voice inside, the one that whispers you can't, that screams you won't, silence it with the thunder of your own making. You're not just a dreamer, you're a destroyer of doubt, a harbinger of your own destiny. And when the world looks at you and says, WTF? It's because you became something they never imagined, a force they can't stop, a truth they can't deny, a power that's already won. Now rise with the weight of your words heavy on your shoulders and the fire of your vision burning in your chest. This is your moment, forged in darkness, delivered in defiance, and owned with savage pride. You said it months ago. Now it's happening. And the world will never be the same because you dared to say what others only dreamed. What's next? You decide. But remember, the storm you've created is just warming up. Stay ruthless, stay relentless, and never stop being the alpha that you were born to be. Ladies and gentlemen of alphas, the storm you have summoned is not a gentle breeze to be admired from afar. It's a tempest, a relentless force that tears down everything comfortable, everything safe, everything ordinary. You spoke the future into existence, and now it's crashing down around you, unforgiving and raw. But this is no accident. This is the payoff for every sleepless night spent wrestling with doubt, every moment you stood alone against the tide of skepticism and ridicule. You said it months ago, and now you are staring into the eyes of your own prophecy, watching it unravel like a dark symphony you composed in your solitude. Understand this: the shock, the disbelief, the silent questioning of how the hell did this happen? That is the sound of the world catching up to you. They didn't believe you, so they ignored you, they mocked you, they tried to bury your voice in noise. But you weren't speaking to them. You were speaking to something deeper, to that raw core of yourself that refuses to accept limits. You spoke to the darkness within and dared it to fight back. And it did. The chaos you feared was never your enemy. It was your weapon, forged in the fire of relentless determination. When everyone else was asleep, you were awake. And now, your wakefulness is shaking the very foundations of what was supposed to be impossible. There's a dark hunger in those moments when your words come true. A hunger not just for success, but for vengeance. Because every time you uttered that prediction, it was a middle finger to every voice that said no, to every hand that tried to hold you down, to every shadow that whispered you weren't enough. This isn't just fulfillment, This is payback. Payback for every ounce of doubt you swallowed, every failure you hid behind closed doors, every brutal truth you had to accept alone. It's the taste of triumph, seasoned with the bitterness of every battle you fought in silence. And it's intoxicating, isn't it? Because now, when you say it again, the power behind your words is heavier, darker, more absolute. But don't let that intoxication blind you. The darkness that fuels your rise is also a warning. The moment your words become reality, your enemies multiply. Not just outside forces, but the ones within yourself. The fear that creeps back in, the doubts that claw at your mind, the seductive lure of complacency dressed as rest. They will come for you with the subtlety of shadows and the ferocity of storms. You've already seen the cost of hesitation. Now is the time for unyielding vigilance. Your prophecy is happening, yes, but only because you stayed hungry when it would have been easier to surrender. Only because you burned brighter in the face of every extinguishing wind. And that fire must never go out. The dark truth is this: the world doesn't reward the cautious or the complacent. It rewards the relentless, the ruthless, the unapologetic. You spoke your destiny into being, and that means you are no longer a victim of circumstance, but a master of fate. That power terrifies people because it reminds them of their own chains. You are the reminder that limits are illusions, and the impossible is just a challenge waiting to be conquered. This is not luck or coincidence. It's cold, hard will. The kind of will that breaks bones and builds empires. And now that your words have become flesh, that will must be sharper than ever, because the battlefield has changed. You're not just moving forward, you're being hunted by those who want to reclaim control, who want to erase the reality you forged. They don't want you to succeed. They want you to fail so badly, it burns like acid in their veins. And sometimes, that enemy looks back at you from your own reflection. Doubt disguised as self-criticism, fear masquerading as caution, old habits lurking in the shadows like assassins waiting for your guard to drop. You have to be brutal with yourself now. No mercy, no excuses. The prophecy isn't just about what happens around you. It's about what you become because of it. And you must become something stronger, darker, more impenetrable than ever before. This is the edge you live on, a razor-thin line between victory and oblivion. When your words come true, it's not just a milestone, it's a signal flare in the night for every predator and every doubter to take aim. You will face storms more violent, obstacles more cunning, and enemies more desperate. But you will also rise more savage, more fierce, more unstoppable, because you are not just a voice in the dark anymore. You are the storm itself. The prophecy you spoke was never just about a moment. It was about becoming a force that changes everything. And now that force is alive, breathing, and roaring with a hunger that can never be sated. So let the world say, WTF. Let them tremble at the reality you forged from shadows. But remember, their shock is your fuel, their disbelief, your ammunition. You are the architect of chaos, the harbinger of change, the alpha who didn't just survive the darkness, but owned it. The night is yours now. Own every second of it, because the path ahead is brutal, unforgiving, and merciless. And so are you. Keep speaking your truth into the void until it crashes down like thunder. Keep walking through the storm until you're the eye, calm and unbreakable. You said it months ago. Now it's happening, and nothing will ever be the same again. Alphas, take a breath, not to relax, but to feel the weight of this moment sink into your bones. Let it sting. Let it echo. Because what you are living now is not just a manifestation. It's a warning shot to the entire world. You said this months ago, and they all laughed. They dismissed you like your vision was fiction, like your intensity was madness. But now they're staring into the storm of your certainty, and they're rattled. They're looking at you with wide eyes, pretending they always believed. But you know better. You remember the smirks. You remember the silence. You remember the damn cold shoulders. And you remember exactly who looked you in the face and called you crazy. Good. Let it fuel you. Let every doubter become the weight you lift. Let every scoffer become the gravel beneath your boots. Because here's the truth. The real, hard, dirty truth. You built this moment with blood. You bled in ways they will never see. You cried behind doors they will never knock on. You screamed into pillows when your voice had nowhere else to go. And still, you spoke the future. Not because you were certain. No, not always. But because you were willing to bet everything you had on the possibility that your pain meant something. That your struggle was building something colossal. That if you screamed loud enough into the void, the universe would eventually scream back. And now it has. But the fire's only just started. This isn't peace. This isn't the end. This is ignition. Because now they see you. Now they feel you. Now they fear you. You've become a mirror they can't look away from. A reflection of what happens when a human refuses to accept the script. You didn't follow the story they wrote for you. You shredded it. You burned the pages. You carved your own chapter with your bare hands and inked it in sweat, tears, and unrelenting fucking willpower. You changed the narrative. And the universe? It blinked first. But don't get comfortable. Don't you dare. Because the ones who denied you are about to come crawling back, dripping in fake apologies and hollow praise. They'll say they always believed. They'll pretend they were rooting for you. And you'll smile. Not because you believe them, but because you know the truth. They were never the audience. They were the fuel. The firewood you burned to keep warm while they stood in the cold and laughed. And now, they're freezing. Remember how dark it got. Remember the pressure, the panic, the silence. Remember how easy it would have been to give in, to shrink, to say, maybe they're right. But you didn't. You stayed. You sat in that darkness and made it your goddamn throne. Because alphas don't run. We adapt. We evolve. We conquer. And we come out of the black with fire in our eyes and war in our hands. You said this months ago, and they didn't hear you then? Make them hear you now. Make your existence so loud that silence becomes their punishment. Every great rise starts in madness. That's what they called it, madness. When you had vision beyond the edges of their tiny maps. They couldn't see past the horizon, but you were already living beyond it. They couldn't dream big because they feared the fall. But you were already falling when you started. Falling through rejection, through failure, through abandonment. And now you've hit the ground running with fire in your lungs. Now you've risen so violently that gravity itself had to back off. You said it, and now you're living it. So here's the next truth. It doesn't stop. This hunger doesn't go away. It gets deeper, more ravenous. Because the moment your words shape reality, the world becomes clay in your hands. You're not just a survivor anymore. You're a sculptor of destiny. What you feel now is the beginning of power. Real, unfiltered, terrifying power. And that kind of power, it isolates. It makes you dangerous. And when you're dangerous, people will do anything to tame you. They'll call you arrogant. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of forgetting who you are. But they're wrong. You didn't forget who you were. You remembered. You remembered what you're capable of. You remembered what silence taught you. What struggle forged into you. What the fire whispered when it thought you were too weak to hear. You didn't change. You simply became what you were always meant to be. So don't step down now. Don't dim your light because it's blinding them. Burn brighter. Let your fire incinerate their doubt. Let your success melt their narratives. Let your victory be the silence that answers every insult, every dismissal, every fucking lie they ever told about what you could or couldn't be. You're not just proving a point anymore. You're proving a law, and the law is this. The voice that survives the silence owns the world that follows. They never saw this coming. That's why they're saying, WTF? That's why their jaws are open and their words are dry. They couldn't comprehend it because they were never built for this kind of vision. They weren't prepared for someone to drag a dream from the abyss and turn it into a living, breathing, undeniable force. And you did it. You made them believe, not because you needed their belief, but because your truth became too massive to ignore. And yet, the mission's not over, because what's next is even more vicious. What's next is holding the throne you just took. And holding it means bleeding again. It means doubling down. It means knowing that now you're being watched, not just by doubters, but by dreamers. Those who want to believe, but don't know how. And they're looking at you. They're watching your every move, listening to every word, waiting for you to fall, or waiting for you to show them that it's possible. So what do? You lead. You don't flinch, you don't soften. You don't apologize for the intensity, for the fire, for the scars. You lean into the chaos and command it like the king or queen you were born to be. Because now that your voice has turned the wheel of fate, you are responsible for where it turns next. You are not just a speaker of truths. You are a creator of legacies. So let them whisper. Let them gasp. Let them choke on the reality you predicted. The words you said months ago weren't random. They were premonitions. And now, in this moment of their fulfillment, you rise into a new chapter, one where every word you speak holds the weight of inevitability. You're no longer a dreamer. You are the reckoning. And if they couldn't handle the shock of this prophecy coming true, wait until they see what's coming next. So now, ladies and gentlemen of Alphas, here we are, standing in the aftermath of a storm you summoned with your bare voice, your brutal honesty, your relentless will. This isn't fiction. It's not some lucky break, and it damn sure isn't coincidence. This is prophecy fulfilled. This is the world bending, reluctantly and violently, to the will of someone who refused to shut up when it was inconvenient. Someone who didn't fold when the silence felt like a coffin. You said it months ago, and now it's here, exactly as you envisioned it. And still they're asking, WTF? But you know better. You know why. Because when power meets clarity, when vision meets hunger, when pain meets purpose, nothing stands a chance. This is your reality now. You don't ask for permission anymore. You don't wait for validation. You don't look for nods or claps or someone to tell you you're enough. You've already proven that. In blood, in grit, in solitude. The war was waged in the darkness, but the victory is yours to carry into the light. You made them see. You made them believe. And most of all, you made them remember your name. But don't let this be the finish line. Number, let this be the foundation. Because now that you've made them listen, it's time to make them follow. Now that they've seen you rise, it's time to make them chase. The prophecy wasn't the end, it was the beginning. The door is open, the storm is cleared, and in its place stands a force forged in pain and sharpened in fire. That force is you. So walk forward now, eyes sharp, voice steady, heart ruthless. Don't stop, don't soften, don't shrink. The world has already underestimated you once. Let that be the last time. You said it months ago. They laughed. Now it's happening, and they're stunned. And next? Next, they won't be asking WTF. They'll be asking how you became unstoppable. And you'll look them dead in the eye and say, I didn't become. I always was.